Good morning, everybody. So we are now at the currently at the Marriott. This is early morning, so it's just 7 o'clock. Everything is just opening up now. Take a little walk to just make sure that everything is kosher and in place. This lady's asking me if I going back to practicing law. Uh, so ask if they're providing breakfast to these guys today. Okay, a lady said that there's a preschooler by the name of Vishan, and she wants him to do well in school. And so, what she's doing is part of what she's doing is preparing him for school, which I think is admirable. One of the things that I'd like to point out today, spend some time with today, is uh, as you some of you may or may not know, um, I had I attracted a stroke, a mini stroke, what they call a TIA. It was on Mother's Day of 2020. I remember because it was COVID, it was Mother's Day. We will go through the whole story, but for today, what I'd like to do is go through a couple of rehab things that I do. Now, everyone tells you, and these of course are interesting because they're not what I've seen in general kind of rehab, do this, do that. One that you will see is to hold the ball and of course squeeze the ball. This is a technique that I also got from pianist Hank Jones. So what Hank Jones said was that in order to keep his fingers flexible, he squeezed the ball a lot of the time during the day. So I thought that's a good rehab technique. That, however, is not really helpful to me once I suffered the stroke. I needed a word for suffered, rather that does not make it uh, pathological. That doesn't make it an illness, a sickness. Once I encountered the stroke, once a stroke encountered me, and part of the reason for that is remember that my dad died from complications from a stroke. So, I've been around the stroke. I've spent a lot of time just looking, studying, trying to figure out solutions, etc., to stroke. I mean, a lot of time. First, because not just that I knew it was potentially a genetic issue, well, it isn't a genetic issue, but also because I wanted to see if there were any practical solutions that you could take once that had happened. And one of the solutions that is usually touted is the ball. Keep calm and stress less. So this is usually advertised as a stress ball. The thing is that what I want to exercise is not what you call, let's call these the flexors, and these are just the tendons, right? The muscles, the actual muscles are up here. So we want to exercise. Let me just show you that. You can see these things flexing. Those are not what I really want to exercise. What I want to, because what happens in many strokes is that you end up with what I call the claw, what everybody calls a claw. It is a fist like this, that a partial fist that cannot be opened. And we know that this is the natural curve, the natural position of this hand. The natural position is not open. This is the natural position. So this is the position to which it will conform if there's nothing, if there's no activity. That's how the hand is, right? Look at monkeys. Look at dead people. Dead people with karate hand. Okay, I haven't seen them. There may be. I haven't seen them. Even if rigor mortis sets in, very few dead people set in have rigor mortis with the karate hand. Usually it's like this, or if it's short, like this. The exercise that we want to do is to extend these. That's the exercise, not to help get to the claw. We want the opposite. We want exercises that I call not the claw. So, not the claw exercises, I have to the design myself, because at the time when I had the stroke, it was during COVID. In fact, COVID was a prime reason why I had the stroke. So here's what you do is with the hand. This is the hand in question, right? And depending on how the screen is, let's make sure that this is the right hand. But whatever hand, whatever side is afflicted, that's a hand that you want to use. And you want to do this and open up the hand while you try and push. There are two things: open up the hand over this and stretch it back, so that you want to use the muscles, the tendons that will open the hand. So I do this 10 times, or 100 times, or 1,000 times, depending on your fatigue and your sense of purpose. I'm doing it maybe 1,000 times during the day, because even though the doctors told me that I would never play guitar again, sorry, probably, you know how they like to give you a little hint. Chances are that you'll never play piano or guitar again. You still say, okay, yeah, 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 doc, yeah, 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 whatever, doc. And you just do what is necessary to prove the doc wrong. The doc will say, I knew you could do it, and it has nothing to do with them, okay? They're just being, they took the hypocritical oath. I did not misspeak, okay? And this is not all doctors. Some of them took and really believed the Hippocratic oath. But the hypocritical oath is something else. So you want to open the hand. And then what we're going to do is add some. I think I first heard about this concept from Victor Williams, who was a schoolmate, not a classmate, but a school. Actually, he was a classmate of mine in drafting. He eventually became an architect, or sorry, an executive architect. I don't know how much actual drawing Victor does, how much pen to paper or fingers or mouse to CAD he actually does. CAD, of course, is the computer assisted design. But I saw Victor, and Victor was working out for, believe it or not, for Mr. Bastia High School. I think that's what it was called. So these guys were, you know, my age, a year or two or three older, and they're working out for Mr. Bastia High School. I had never had any desire, any inkling to do anything like that. But part of it involved going to a gym and building up your muscles and things like that. Absolutely no interest in that. But part of what I saw, Victor Williams, I remember this as if it was yesterday. He was showing, and remember Archie Williams, his brother, his older brother, was also involved in this Mr. Bastia High School. I'll have to go back and reference this, but it had to be sometime between 1968, when I entered Bastia High School. 1968, I was in 1A. We just had a class reunion. And 1974, when I left St. Kitts for Canada. Anyway, he was showing that by just putting the tension on these hands, what you were doing is, and moving it back and forth, what you were doing was working, if you're pushing this way, then you're working the triceps on this hand. If you're pushing at the same time as you're forcing it this way, you're working the biceps of this other hand. And vice versa. If you're doing it this way, then this, of course, is the Popeye, the Sailor Man pose. But the whole concept was to use methods, and I'll look up the word isometrics and see if I'm using the correct word. The whole thing about these isometric exercises, that you're using the opposing muscles to help build up the muscles in question. So what I don't want to do is overcompensate and use the shoulder muscles to do what you want the fingers to do, because that's another trick that you use the shoulder muscles to push and the rehab. Oh yes, very good, very good. There's a not very good, Carl, or very good. That's not good. Okay, what you want to do is the opposite. Once you get to the stage where you feel comfortable and you can move it even slightly, then add some pressure to it. Push down on the fingers on the other hand and push up with these hands. Again, push down on the fingers, this hand, and push up. You don't even have to pull the fingers in. They will relax to their normal state. Again, you put this hand on. These are Carl exercises. I'm sure somebody else in the galaxy, in the universe, through the great book of antiquity may have come up with these, but I'm just saying that I didn't see these anywhere, and these are what just made sense to me that I had to do in order to recover and be not just a better me from where things, but actually go and surpass whatever skills and muscle, whatever I had pre-stroke. So we're not just going to this, we're shooting above and beyond it. And I'll tell you steps in terms of physically and mentally coming to this kind of conclusion. So here we go again. Open up. Let it relax. Force it and apply more pressure so that it gets more and more difficult every day. Again. As you can see, it seems a bit disingenuous now, and I have resisted joining a lot of these stroke survivor groups because nobody can believe that I recovered so well. Well, you really didn't have a stroke. You just had well, you don't know. But tell me, you also worked there when I was doing this 1,000 times every day. So here it is again. And let's call that exercise one. So the exercise one consists of two parts: making the fist with the good hand. I actually don't know of anybody who's had a stroke where both sides are affected, but that could possibly be. I, I can't help you with that right now because I haven't experienced it. If and when I do, I will figure something out. You make the fist, the power, hand over the fist, and then left it. This is the bad hand. So if you have to, force the fist in there, and then lift it off. This is the bad hand. Force the fist in, and then lift it off. This is the non-functioning hand. Take the good hand, force the fist in there, and by force I mean really force. Get it in there, and then lift it off. Once you get, if you, and do this for however long it takes, an hour a day, 3 days, 3 months, keep doing it every day if you can. All that you have is your mind and the ability of your mind to deal with any situation with which it is confronted. Now, once you've done that and it feels pretty good, you can force the hand open and there is any kind of slight movement. What you want to do now is push down on this hand and push against the flexibility, the effort that it takes to open the hand will return to its natural claw position, which is what you do not want. Again, push down. Ah, of course, this is for dramatic effect. You know how they do it in the gym. We don't do that. You can do this anywhere. You can do this in church, for example. And a lot of time I spend in church, this is what I'm doing. Again, flexing it. Because what you want to do is be able to go through this motion, which seems so easy for me to do now, but which was frankly impossible to do back then. So we'll call this Carl's exercises, Carl post stroke exercise number one. Two parts. Force that fist in. This is not the fist in the turkey, and it's not the metaphor. I, I hesitate to use the word fisting for obvious reasons, but if you want to use that, you can as well. Force that fist in, and then let it relax. Force the fist in, force the fist in. Look, and what you're looking for is see if there's any anticipatory movement as the other hand comes in, because that's a good sign. Do you see a little tremor as it forces in? Good. Next, from there, from there, and you can combine the two. So you can combine them in this way. Again, again, third time. And things don't come in threes, okay? Think of them in, they come in 3,000s or 30,000. How do you eat an elephant, as the old saying goes? You eat it one step at a time. And this is number one. Part one. Because you want it stronger than it was before. So eventually, you want to be able to kill people or be able to inflict pain just by extending them. That's how strong you want it to be. And at any time during the day, just find yourself flicking this out. This, of course, post there's so many exercises that you have to do to get to this stage. But I'm saying, consider that you might have to do this for life, like literally for the rest of your days. The other option is curl up and die. That's the only other option. Curl up and die, or do this. Like, what else are you going to do? You're going to go to the mall instead of getting your hand together. You're going to, like, what? You're going to go to the bank. You're going to count your money. You're going to make preparations for your graveyard. Like, what are you going to do? Just one, two, three. Here endeth the lesson for today. Let me go and take a look at the sunrise, if you don't mind. Remember, we started with the ball and showing how that wasn't as effective as you want to be. But as number two is, if you do have the ball, I choose a red ball because in St. Kitts it's good to to get practice with squeezing red balls every now and then. And what I do with this is pretend that this is a guitar and it's forcing this finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, the middle finger, the forefinger. All of these are pushing down, even as you're walking. And then in patterns, these are patterns that you work out yourself. And these are patterns which are not unfamiliar to me, strangely enough, because they're the kinds of patterns I used, I worked out when I was learning to play guitar. So that for the rest of the day, this is what you're going to be doing. And of course, uh, bowlers have different grips. So you want to be able to do the thing, the leg spin, the googly, the back of the hand, all of that stuff is going to come out with the balls. Pick a red ball or pick a yellow ball or pick an orange ball. Pick the color that's going to give you more incentive to squeeze. Okay, that's an inside joke. Let's get away from that and get back to the international version of this. And what you want to be able to do is literally be able to do magic tricks. This would be the goal. If you're goal oriented in terms of behavior change, then you want to be able to get to the stage where you can actually do magic tricks, or you can bowl for your neighborhood cricket, or pitch for your neighborhood baseball team, or just do whatever it is that you like to do with balls. But get familiar with the balls, right? These are all part of rehab. We'll call this rehab number three. Get a ball, a stress ball. This one says keep calm and stress less. Well, I don't know how to do that because this whole life is one of stress. The fairway group. Stress. Stress less. Stress. Stress less. So that's exercise number two to do with the stroke. Let me just take a walk, and remember, part of the whole issue here is to keep mobile. What I'm going to do now is let me check my uh, voicemail, etc., my WhatsApp. Also, do you? Okay. I think that's everything so far. And as soon as this gets fairly busy, I'm going to transition the to rituals. And also at rituals, what I'm going to do is I am going to. So I'm just pouring a little cup of coffee here from my flask. Okay, for those of you who don't know, this one of the essentials for me is a vest pocket, uh, little, what do you call this? A vest pocket diary where I keep my appointments and names. I want this about the same size as my phone so that this whole thing is very, very manageable. As I sit here in the Marriott, I realized that same-sex couples is a thing. That is, there are a number of same-sex couples, and by that I just mean two people walking, not making any aspersions. As let's put it this way: this is not a comment on sexual proclivity or sexual preference. It's just that you see two people of the same sex walking. Simple as that. I wake up pre-caffeinated. That is, I need to get caffeine before I can get going. So today, what do we have on tap today? Always keep a lucky $5 bill in here for emergencies. This shows me this was $18, 17.99 Canadian, which is a lot of money. But the whole thing is that it has, to me, a lot more. There's a difference between taking out, this is just a note to self in terms of sales, because remember in life, uh, I consider myself a salesman. Everything is a sale. And so there's a difference between taking out a book, vest pocket, and writing a name on it. These are pens given uh, by the Royal St. Kitts Hotel where I stay. So you have the Royal St. Kitts Hotel, which you can then get, and asking somebody to write their name down in a book like this. There's a huge difference between that and this. Give me your number or put your number in my phone. This is old school, and it's just that people remember this more. Remember the fact that you did it differently, even though you have the two options. I generally always try and choose this option, unless, of course, even if it's somebody who is millennial or younger. And that's just because the effect is the same. Remember that part of what we're doing, even from the client base, or uh, you can't go wrong in knowing more people. So part of the object every day is to know more people, increase more people, learn the names. That's the other thing I do is learn the names. So I ask them to put their name in. If there's a nickname or anything, put the name in and add an email address. That's the other thing. Always add an email address so that in the chance, the case where they may be at work or whatever, because you can do both, find a way to contact them that does not depend on the phone. So let's write that down as things to do. Today, part of what I do is I assist people, consult, advise, just informally or not, about things that they could be doing or should be doing if they intend on coming back to St. Kitts or retiring in a Caribbean island. And there are a couple of things that we're going to be looking at today. First of all, let's assume that you have acquired a piece of land and you're deciding whether to build on it or not. One of the first things that you have to do, we'll have gone through, you will recall, the whole thing about acquiring the land, the purchase, the et cetera, et cetera. Um, One of the things that you want to do first is to fence the land, that is, secure your asset. Securing the asset, securing the periphery is always, in my mind, very important, because what's the use of getting something just like your money, just like your relationships, just like your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, if you don't make attempts at securing it. So while the general thrust is to acquire more, there's a very, very simple and very important part of you which has to secure what you got. So while you're looking outwards to acquire more property, to invest more, to anything else, what you're doing is securing what you already have. And part of this is fencing. Now, I'll use an actual example where the cost of fencing varied from under $4,000. So let's say $3,500 EC, up to $15,000 to $18,000. And think of that big gap. So you, as a diasporan or a diasporan, come and you're trying to figure out, okay, what is it? What's best for me? Should I go with the $15,000 option, and if so, why? Or should I go with the $3,000, $3,500 option, and if so, why? And part of my philosophy in life, others can differ, is only pay for what you need, and not just what you need, but maybe what you need for the near and just foreseeable, the near future. So prepare, pay for what you need now. Make sure that if your needs grow, you can still deal with it. And then um, you should be safe, because the other money that you could have, think of another 10,000 EC that could have gone into further investment, further land acquisition, etc. That money is instead using to secure the land, when in fact you could have done that same job securing the land for $3,500. Why would you pay more? Now, in this case, we had the advantage of only having to fence half of the land. And this was important to note, because a lot of the other people who were giving the estimates had not considered this. So, on one, think of a rectangle, right? So you have the rectangle. This half was already fenced. Why was this half already of the rectangle already fenced? Because there were already people living here on this side. There's already somebody there. And on this side, there's already somebody there. So what you need now is to fence only this. You can hold it up like that, but that's loser, right? So this is all that you need to get fenced, right? So in other words, any quotation that gives you this is after they've seen the land, any quotation that gives you a quote for 3,500 with only this part would be the same thing as somebody not realizing or wanting to rip you off or whatever, because that other 3,500, which would bring it to $7,000, is not necessary. Why it's not necessary? There's already a fence there. In the case that we're talking about, it was already a concrete block wall. You can't get more secure than that. What are you going to do? The fence that we want is just to make sure that people realize that this area belongs to someone and somebody's taking the effort in order to secure it. And for that, I was convinced that I needed only a 3 foot high fence. I thought that it should be at least 4 to 5 feet. But it was pointed out to me that if in fact you needed more or you wanted to extend it, all that you had to do is extend the stakes, which were already in the ground and secured through cement. We just had to extend the stakes, bolt or screw on extensions, and then buy another strip of wire that would then again go around the circumference or half the circumference. Also, if you thought that it was necessary to have a gate, then we'd put that in as well. That was it. I'll take you down there, we'll take a look at the land, and we'll go through all of the options that were available. Remember that before all of this, you need to have a survey of the land. So you need to contact a surveyor who will then put the stakes or the geo, whatever, but put markers in that say, okay, this is where the land is. And for that, I think we asked, I got Dwight Francis to that. I had already contacted Mr. Buchanan, but I think Mr. Buchanan was occupied at the time. It was pre-election, and Mr. Buchanan, I knew him from school as well, not in my class, but as a schoolmate. Mr. Buchanan was doing his pre-election surveying, so I don't think. Actually, Dwight Francis was doing a hell of a lot pre-election surveying as well. In fact, I think that Dwight Francis, I'll have to check the accolades and the promotions, but I think that Dwight Francis is now possibly, probably head of planning or some other big shot job. But he was the one that I contacted and hounded to do this, and with of course the reasoning recognition that we had already engaged him for a much larger project in the Fairway uh, condos, the Fairway Group. We already had him doing surveying for that. So look, here's a thing: we need a survey for this property. The property is in Ponds pasture. That itself has turned into a free-for-all cowboy country. So we need to make sure of what's happening. And notice, I will show you how, in terms of cowboy country, how waiting can cost you, because what the people, and we'll show you just what the movement was. They came and used this same land as a dumping ground. Now, what are you going to do once that happens? You're going to engage, I don't know, five machete carrying Rastamen who are doing work. You're going to engage somebody because this clearly needed uh, uh, either a bobcat or some other mechanical construction equipment to move what looks to me like an engine and put it on your property, or a transmission, put it on your property. No, you just got to, what I call in St. Kitts, you have to know how to, at the time, this is typical petition, just bend over and take it because you have to kiss us until you can kick us. Sadly, I never got the memo for bend over and take it, and I never ever got the memo for kiss ass, regardless of whatever. Even if the reward was eventually kick ass, I couldn't get past the kiss ass stage. So that is why I don't want to go to prison, because I will die. I couldn't be a slave, because before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. The Lord made it in His wisdom. He made it possible for me to live during this time, because I would be dead in another time. Total institution, dead. Nazi Germany, dead. The Middle Passage, dead. First day on the plantation, dead. I can't do it. Don't know how. And granted that the Lord doesn't give us, that irrefutable Christian derivative. Oh, Carl, he never gives you anything more than you are able to bear. You know what? Dead. You win, Lord. Dead. Because remember, he ended up dead as well. So what he did was show us how to be dead. And that's all we're working for. Occupy while he comes, and he could be death. Coffee. This is genius, by the way, this little flask, for those who are addicted to coffee. And remember that what I need on vacation is coffee and Wi Fi. As part of this post stroke observation thing, if you have a significant other, this is ladies, or for those of you who are acting the lady in gay relationships, um, regardless of plumbing, of course, keep an eye on how your partner holds the glass and make sure that it is horizontal. The rim is horizontal, and the meniscus is horizontal as well, or the surface is horizontal as well. One of the things that I noticed is that just after the stroke and in my rehab phase, is that a lot of people would say, Carl, especially at wine tasting or something, you can hold the glass, but you don't exactly know where the glass is in space. So you don't know where the glass is in space. So if you see the glass tipping in any way, that's a sign, and the person is not aware. That's an indication that the person is not aware of where the hand is in space and the position of the hand. What's the word for that? Anyway, that is something that I noticed as well, is that I didn't know exactly where the positioning of my hand was mentally in space. If I wasn't looking at it, if I looked down, then I could see that the glass needed adjustment, and I could make the adjustment in that way. But until then, the glass could be tipping. That's an indication that that person may not be aware of the tipping of the glass, and that person may have suffered or is in the process of suffering a stroke. Believe me, you know that you need this information because you're not going to hear this shit anywhere else. I'll bring it to you correct. So, indications of stroke or potential stroke or just having a stroke, etc. One of them is holding the glass level. And any deviation from that is, hey, what's going on? Your glass is about to tip. Are you okay? Okay, let me see your tongue. don't, don't do that during the wine tasting or the dinner party or anything else. But just keep it in mind. Make sure that your partner can hold the glass level. Mm, mm. I'll also tell you about coffee because coffee is another big thing in the Federation. And my solution to coffee, I found out that St. Kitts actually produces coffee, and so we're going to take a look at that and compare it with some of the better known coffee producers and find out how, say, in comparison with Blue Mountain Coffee in Jamaica, is it Kobo Coffee in Hawaii? Find out why the most arable land known to us as Lyamiga, which apparently meant fertile land. Do I have that correct? Yes. Why we wouldn't have the best coffee or among the best coffee if, in fact, we're growing coffee beans in land that is fertile. So we'll take a look at that. Let me make a note of that. Or you guys message me with that. Check out the possibility of the coffee bean situation in St. Kitts. Okay, guys, it's around 8 o'clock now, and I'm going to be going. I'm going to transition over to Rituals. Rituals just opened a place that is open early in the morning, so it's open now, and we're going to take a look over there. And the rain has stopped, so let's go over to Rituals, and I'll continue my um, YouTube thing there. Okay. Today again is May 27th, 2024, and this is my name is Carl. And remember that this is a program where we ask who, what, where, why, and when, and how. But of course, how is just who spelled a little differently. So who, what, why, where, and when, and how. But how is just who spelled a little differently. And what we're trying to do is not only be a better you, but that's not good enough. Be the best possible you, and be the kind of you that you can be confident that if anybody was in your stage, your place, your slice, frozen slice of time, and had the decisions to make and choices to make that you face, that they would, granted, sensibility, etc., they would have no issues in making the choice that you made. Does that make sense? Well, for now, it will have to. And as I said, stay with us if you can. Stay with us before we are banned. And this is the Carl Maurice podcast. Let me see. How long until the. Let me keep track of something because I have to do something until the end of the month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 11 days until June 6th, and June 6th is where I'm going to have. I'm going to dedicate the day of June 6th to remembering my friend Adrian Lamb, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. And Adrian Lamb's birthday was June 6th, and I thought I had an agreement with him to start the St. Kitts International Jazz Festival, concentrating this year on guitar. But Adrian leapt ahead of me in the line up, and he's now dead. So I don't have access to Adrian. So we're going to, good morning. I'm going to pretend, good morning. I'm going to pretend that he's still here, and we're going to celebrate uh, Adrian and Adrian's life and some of the things that you may not know about him. And as I said, Adrian uh, was a classmate of mine in 1968. That was the year that we entered high school. We were the same age, exactly the same age, because I have the same birth date as Adrian Lamb. And so I will go through kind of my experiences with Adrian and what I remembered about him, and also the fact that he decided to not make it for the first International Jazz Festival, even though I was going to tell him to break out the Steinberger guitar, right, bass guitar. He's a Marcus Miller fan, and he had ears in terms of by good ears, not just as a musician learning, okay, this is what key it is. He also had the ears of an audio engineer. In other words, he could recognize a good voice print. He knew how to deal with it. He could get a sense of how it sounded in the room from the monitors from different points of view. There were a few better than Adrian Lamb, partly because there were a few that were as experienced as he was. And note that we're also going to take a look at the different sound requirements um, that different types of music um, need. So, for example, the setup for a jazz trio is not going to be the same as a setup for uh, a boy, like Burma boy. I got to go. I'm getting delirious now, and there's very little I can do to hold back my sarcasm because, as we know, this shit here is unfiltered. So if you want the unfiltered shit, come here. If you just want the whatever it is that other people do, be my guest. Troll the internet. There's lots of stuff for you. Have a good day, and see you in about an hour.